Yo, what the hell is Carnival? What's a fete? What's Juve? Juvert? So many questions, I know, and this is why Nice-ish exists. I'm going to answer all of these and more coming right up. You're tuned into Nice-ish, the Carnival-specific podcast that addresses chat-worthy topics straight off the Caribbean social scene. It's your one-stop spot to get all the information you need to be successful in this carnival-chasing lifestyle. You'll be filled with knowledge and getting updates from me, Sha, and other professionals in the field of Bacchanal. It's time to get nice. All right, y'all. So it's a mid-month episode and we are hopping right in. No segments, just straight facts. So back in like 2016, I dropped a blog on this very topic and I felt like it's time for a revisit. I wanted to make sure that my newbies who are just getting into this carnival life, I wanted to make sure that you guys are well prepared. So this is the reason for this special edition. So make sure that you check out the show notes for the revised blog, the link to the revised blog. So as an educator, I got to lay the foundation for you guys. I got to make sure that you are coming into this carnival thing the right way. You know what I'm saying? So carnival goes back to like the 18th century, and it's believed to have originated in Trinidad. No surprise there. But yeah, the music, the dancing, the costumes, those have always been key components to carnival. And the carnival celebrations and the reasons behind them really depend on the country that you're celebrating in. So my recommendation, which is something that you should do all the time, is to do research before you travel anywhere. It's always respected by the locals, but please just leave Wikipedia alone. Do some real research, okay? So let's get into some general definitions. So you might hear people say, "Oh, we having a lime tomorrow night." So a lime is an unofficial gathering, and this is my own definition, right? It's an unofficial gathering of individuals with like a common purpose of enjoying music, drinking, eating, and just basking in each other's company. Limes generally have like smartphone DJs playing the latest mixes. It's a little potluck situation. Everybody bring a bottle, and it's just very intimate. And they're normally at somebody's house, right? Or somebody's apartment. Then you may hear the word fete used a lot, as in which fete you're going to for Labor Day. So a fete is a full-blown party that you have to pay for, which is complete with a venue, with DJs, with bars. It's really the next step up from a lime. And what you need to understand is that there are different types of fetes, okay? So here's a quick rundown of the types of fete that there are. So there's a wet fete, which is like, there's wet fetes and there are foam fetes. And both of those are basically you getting wet throughout the party with foam or with water hoses, whatever it is. I love foam party. I love all fetes, actually. Just let me just say that right now. And then you have like dirty fetes, or also known as Juve fetes, where you're getting powder or paint or oil or mud or all of the above like thrown on you throughout the party. Then you have a breakfast fete, and a breakfast fete is a party that's really held like early in the morning, and they should be providing you with breakfast. Then you have cooler fetes, which I love. And cooler fetes are the ones where you are allowed to bring, yes, actual coolers to the event, and you fill it with your beverages, your spirits of choice. And normally, like, you would have to take the contents from the glass bottles and pour them into plastic containers for safety purposes. But you're bringing whatever it is that you want to drink, which is that there's so much beauty in that. You don't have to go to a bar. Sometimes there are bars and you would go there to get the chasers or whatever, but for the most part, you're bringing what you want. And I just love the freedom with that, because sometimes you don't know what the bar is going to have, and you know what you want. You can trust yourself, and you know what you want to drink. So you're going to bring that. So that's really why I love cooler fetes. And then you have boat rides, and boat rides are fetes, right? They're parties on the water. The downfall to boat rides, and while they can be lovely and I do enjoy them, you number one, you have to make it on time. Right? Like this isn't one of those situations where you arrive super late and expect to still make the event. Like you will get left. People have gotten left at the dock. Okay. So you have to be there on time. But then the other thing to note is like once you're on the boat, you're stuck there. Like you cannot leave early, right? Like you have to really consider your choices when going on a boat ride, because there might be a fete that you're attending after. And if that boat ride extends beyond the time that they said it was going to end, you're kind of screwed, especially if you really wanted to go to the next fete that's afterwards. And that's happened to me before. And also, like, if the boat ride sucks, again, you can't go anywhere. You just got to sit up there, curl up in the corner and wait for it to finish. So that's that. Make wise choices when it comes to choosing boat rides. Then, you may hear a lot of vets say something like, well, that is a unicorn fete, so I ain't holding my breath. So a unicorn fete is a party that is extremely difficult to secure tickets for. And oftentimes you have to know someone that's a part of the planning committee or a part of the promotion team in order to get tickets. So they're very, very, very exclusive events. If you do happen to get into a unicorn fete, big up yourself, okay? But let's touch on some road basics really quick. You have Juve, and then you also have Pretty Mass. Now, I used the word Juve earlier to describe one of the fete types. So, to my knowledge, Juve derives from a French phrase that means like daybreak or morning. And Juve is really like, it's a street party. It's a parade that's normally held like at the crack of dawn. And it's an event where you get dirty. And they're throwing powder and paint and mud and chocolate and oil in some cases, depending on where you are. And you follow the music trucks and you dance, oftentimes without behavior. And you get drenched in the elements. There is zero judgment at Juve. You dress however you want. And honestly, I feel like it's probably one of the most liberating experiences. Like I love a good Juve. Then you have Pretty Mass, which is kind of like the opposite of Juve. You're definitely not dirty, right? You're more, funky, fresh, dressed to impress, ready to party, right? So you're all dolled up, you're all dapper, and your extravagant costumes. Ladies, your makeup is flawless. You're trying to present like the ultimate you on the road, right? So we're going to dive a little deeper into this whole mass thing. So before I got into this carnival chasing life, like I really thought that you had to be like part of a dance troupe or you had to be part of a social club in order to be on the road with a carnival band, but I was so wrong. So a mass band, and mass is short for masquerade. A masquerade band is a group that participates in the parade, and the whole goal for them is to win band of the year. And there are other categories as well, but it is a competition for the most part in a lot of majority of the country. So these groups are like, they're responsible for providing the costumes, they're responsible for providing the drinks and other services that patrons are going to have while being on the road. And each mass band, like every year, each mass band presents a variety of costumes, and the costume variations are known as sections. And anybody can sign up to join a mass band as long as there's space, and there's no dance experience required. There's nothing. Like you're just going, you're just running, you're giving them the money and you're registering. Boom, that's it. So the way that you join a band is pretty simple. So most bands have a live band lunch, and honestly nowadays with good old technology, there are more virtual band launches that are happening on social media. And that's we can talk about that in another episode. But normally at the end of a band launch, which is really a fashion show / fete where you get to see what the band is presenting as costumes. So there are models coming out wearing each of the costumes. And so you get to see what they look like. So at the end of the launch, you will have the opportunity to register for the section of your choosing. So if you're there, you can register that night. Like if you're physically in the space on the island at the band launch, you can register that night. If you're not, then you can register once the website goes live. Or if you know someone that is on island, you can ask them to register for you. But in all cases, no matter how you register, you need to have your deposit money ready to secure your costume. So how do you go about picking a costume? I mean, honestly, it can be super easy or it can be difficult, especially if you're not sure what you're looking for. I personally recommend that you consider style, you consider the comfort of it, and of course, you consider the cost and really think about what's most important to you out of those things and go from there. Ladies, I want you to keep in mind that there are so many options when it comes to costume selection. So backline, you have frontline, you have midline, you have section leader, there's so much. But backline costumes are basically the simpler versions of a design. They're generally less expensive and they're more dancer friendly. And then you have frontline costumes, which really are the exclusive costumes that have like that wow factor. And then like the frontline packages, like they may come with like additional perks like photo shoots or makeup sessions or extra goodies or massages. Like it could be a variety of things. And then sometimes, which is like what's beginning to be like a new trend, or like midline. So it's not quite backline, it's not really frontline, but it's somewhere in between. And then honestly, what I like about playing mass is like the all inclusive experience that you get, which is really the big reason behind the price point. So packages generally vary by organization. So you would be talking about like your costume, the drinks on the road, the DJs, the food, which normally is breakfast, lunch, and dinner, again, depending on the band. And there's often a goodie bag that you get as a keepsake that is filled with like snacks and mugs and rags and other fun treats that you should find useful for Carnival. And don't get me wrong, some goodie bags are like thebomb.com, and then some goodie bags are like, y'all could keep this. But for the most part, they're pretty nice. Then the other thing that I want to make note of when it comes to Carnival is that there are some carnivals that span the course of 2 days. So for example, Trinidad, St. Lucia, Green, St. Kitts, and those are just to name a few of them. But on day one, you would be in, or you might be like in full masquerade, right? And then on the other day, you would wear something that's a little less extravagant. For example, like in Trinidad, Monday wear outfits are worn on the Monday before Pretty Mass. And Pretty Mass, that day for Pretty Mass is known as Carnival Tuesday. So on those alternative days, it's really an opportunity for you to get creative and like flaunt your stuff. And so some people go all out, while others kind of keep it simple with like a stylish yet and trendy swimwear. And then when it comes to Monday wear, you can either you can make it yourself, or you can enlist the talents of a costume designer. So you have costume designers who freelance and, they make custom orders for you. And then you have designers who actually launch lines specifically for Monday wear that they mass produce for a certain amount of people for each of their sections. So fast forward. You've chosen a costume, you've put your deposit down, you have officially registered for said band, right? You can pay everything up front, or you can pay in installments, and there's usually a deadline to pay in full. Some bands allow you to make the final payments in person upon costume collections, but honestly, I really don't recommend that. And speaking of costume collection, that's something that happens on site. Like, nobody's mailing you a costume in advance unless you got it like that, you know what I'm saying? But but normally the costume distribution schedule is posted on the band's social media platforms, and you will be able to see what days they'll allow you to pick up for your section. So generally at pickup, all you have to do is you're bringing your identification, you're bringing your confirmation of registration or your receipt, and then you're bringing your balance if you haven't paid it already. For example, for the distribution schedule, if you are in section A and they tell you that section A's pickup will begin on Wednesday, then you have to wait until Wednesday to go and get your costume, but you are able to pick it up anytime after Wednesday. But what is not able to happen is you're not going to be able to go there on a Monday and pick up that section on that Monday. You have to wait until they are ready. And I do have a vlog about this that I will put the link in the show notes to, that really talks specifically about registering for bands and costumes and collection and all those extra tips and stuff that I drop for you. Really, another thing that I wanted to touch on is that if you are that person and you decide to travel and go to a carnival last minute and you want to look for a costume, or you want to look for FET tickets or lodging opportunities on short notice, then there's this website called findaband.com, link also going to be in the show notes, which basically is the Caribbean marketplace for all things carnival. I do want to warn you to definitely tread with caution on there, especially when making purchases, but it can really be a true gem. I've been able to exchange carnival, bras and accessories on there. I've been able to buy and sell FET tickets. People have secured lodging on there. People who may not be able to go to a carnival anymore have, sold their costumes on there. So there's definitely a way to kind of still be involved and plugged in if you haven't had the time to properly plan. There's always a way. Now that you know all of that, right? I think the final things that I wanted to share in this newbie crash course are this. So Carnival ain't cheap, okay? It's not cheap. You have to consider a variety of things, and I'm going to tell you what those things are. So you have to consider the flights, you have to consider lodging, you have to consider FETs, the band, your costume, your food that you're going to eat. You have to consider the leisure activities. And yes, I do highly recommend that wherever it is that you go, you need to explore that land, right? You need to explore that country, get to know it, do some sightseeing. Like, don't just go there for the actual parade. Don't just go there for the FETs. Go there and really immerse yourself in the culture. And then the other thing that you need to remember is that, and you need to budget for, is the travel while you're there. So whether that's getting a rental car, or whether that's hiring a personal driver, or just Ubering if that country has it, or getting taxis, like all of those things are things that you need to consider when figuring out your budget for these carnival trips. It is a lot. And if you find that planning for it is too overwhelming, then there are carnival concierge services that you can enlist the help from, of course, for a fee. And I'm actually going to drop some of those links in the show notes as well, and in the blog post. So there are ways, and there are people out there that are willing to help you. And also there are groups that are out there as well. So if you wanted to kind of get your feet wet in this carnival life, but you don't really know where to start, then you can definitely join some groups. I know that, there's MOA, there's LPTS, so I can also drop those links down there for you as well. So there's a number of people that you can connect with before you even reach, and just kind of start to build your bonds that way. And then lastly, what I really wanted to touch on is that when you start this carnival life, really, really, really try to go at your own pace. Like, there's this myth that carnival is a no sleep situation, and I believe that to be false. Okay. It certainly depends on the person. So it depends on you. And I will say, though, that carnivals are more adventures than they are vacations. They are not vacations. However, you can rest during carnival, but how much sleep you get depends on the schedule that you create. So if you want the full experience at a certain carnival, then, sleep may not exist for you, and you may be more of a power napper because of your schedule. But if you don't plan to have like this jam-packed schedule, then sleeping is certainly possible. It's all up to you. So again, if you're a newbie out there, I think the key word is pace, right? You have to pace yourself, not just with the FET schedule that you create, but also when you are FETing, right? So if you're scheduled to go to 2 FETs a day or more, right, you need to make sure, and especially if you are a drinker, then you need to make sure that you are pacing yourself with the liquor. You don't want to be TKO by the first FET, and then you never make it to those other FETs because you have been passed out. You don't want to do that. You don't want to waste your money. And then the same thing goes with the sleep as well. Like, you don't want to be sleep deprived. I have been there. I have fallen asleep standing up at a FET because I was tired, or I was tired and intoxicated, right? So don't be that person. Don't waste your money. Honestly, if you don't know how you're going to be, what I like to do, especially if there are FETs that have, that are certainly not unicorn FETs. If they're FETs that, still have tickets or whatever, then I'm like, you know what, I'll buy that when I get there. And if I feel up to it, I'll get a ticket at the door. If not, at least I didn't waste my money. You don't want to be that person that's scrambling, trying to sell a ticket or whatever because you're too tired. So just really, really pace yourself when it comes to that. You want to be able to enjoy the FETs, enjoy the road, but you also want to be able to just get rest and have that nice downtime and actually take in the island or wherever it is that you are to have a little leisure time. So I think that's really, really, really important. So if you have questions, of course, you know that you can drop them to me via voice note on anchor.fm or hit me up in my DMs on social media. But I really hope that this crash course was helpful for my newbies. All right. So have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful 2020 Carnival season. I'm out. Thanks for tuning in to the latest episode of Nice-ish. As always, I'm grateful for your time and attention. Stay plugged in by subscribing to this podcast, my website, tingznice.com, and following me on all social media platforms. Visit the show notes for all the links and the plugs related to this episode. If you ever have questions about anything we discuss on the show, be sure to hit me up at info@tingznice.com. And remember, sharing is caring, so please pass this podcast on to anyone you believe will benefit from the information. I'm going to check you all later.